8 edition of the Biscuits and SEC preview. The game of the week this week is Ole Miss and LSU, but first, Alex, tell people how they can read your stuff.
Yeah, so thanks for having us again, Steven. Good to be back on. Sorry I missed you guys last week. Biscuitsandsec.com is where you can read our blogs. We post previews, recaps, and a few other fun things up there at biscuitsandsec.com. You can find us on social media. You can find us on Twitter at biscuitsandsec, also on Instagram and Facebook at that handle. And you can find our videos with you and some other things on our YouTube channel at Biscuits and SEC. You can just search us in the search bar there. So that's where you can find us. Hope you'll follow along.
Yeah. Ole Miss versus LSU, Magnolia Bowl in Tiger Stadium. LSU a 2-point favorite. I can't quite figure that out. Ole Miss has a number 7 by their name, which makes this whole thing seem very weird. Hank, what are your keys to this ball game?
I think when you look at this from the Ole Miss perspective, first of all, this will be, I believe, the toughest road environment they've been to. So how does Jackson Dart look? And on that note, how much does Ole Miss need him? Because we've seen nearly every game they really haven't needed him to do much. I think he's capable. I think he's shown plenty of flashes of having a really good arm, being able to stretch the field. He's effective in the run game as well. So my question is basically just, how does Ole Miss look, especially early on in the game, avoid the big mistakes, to keep that fan base in it. And then, if they can run the ball effectively, then, again, Jackson Dart doesn't really have to perform that well, or at least they're not going to be asking him to make a ton of plays. So that's kind of my, initial keys right off the bat in this matchup.
Yeah, boss man. Ole Miss 448 yards rushing last week. The week before, 448 yards passing. What is LSU defensively going to do against these teams?
Good luck. We'll see. It's going to be interesting to see how Matt House schemes it up to try and stop this Ole Miss offense because, we've been talking about it for a few weeks that Ole Miss is really just going behind this running game with Quinshon Judkins and Zach Evans. They're just rushing all over people. Last week you saw it yet again. And we've been saying it that they need to start getting the passing game going. And when is this passing game really going to start stepping up? And I think there's still some kinks to work out. You can see it show up in the stat line. You see it in the highlights. However, I think it's starting to get on the right foot. And so if you're Matt House, you got to figure out, do you load the box? Do you try and stop Quinshon Judkins and Zach Evans and really try to force Jackson Dart to throw the ball? I suspect that that's what they're going to try and do because if you look at this team, you really got to think that you do not want to get beat on the ground. But that's going to open up some play action passes. They also like to use Zach Evans and Quinshon Judkins out of the backfield. We saw that last week. There was a beautifully designed play from Lane Kiffin that had Zach Evans roll out of the backfield for a touchdown. When Jackson Dart hit him, the little fake where he went in, he came back and he hit Zach Evans on the route on the sideline. So yeah, Matt House, he really has a huge challenge ahead of him this week against Ole Miss. I think it's going to be really fun to watch, just figure out what LSU tries to do. But previewing it a little bit, I don't know that they're going to be able to stop him. I think that LSU favored by 2 right now. I think that Vegas is giving them the edge because this is in Tiger Stadium in Death Valley. It is always difficult to get a win. But I think it's also a little bit Ole Miss's schedule. Ole Miss is, they're 7-0 to this point, and then kind of the national narrative around that is that do we really know who Ole Miss is yet? Because the competition may not have been up to a level of, say, an LSU, and then what they're going to face the rest of this year. So I think Vegas is a little bit iffy as to what this is going to look like for Ole Miss playing an opponent that maybe is better than many of the ones that they've played to date.
All right, Hammer. Final thoughts and predictions on this game.
I've got Ole Miss. They opened as a favorite, I believe. It swung back to LSU. I think personally that's a lot of recency bias. LSU played a great game last weekend against Florida in prime time on the road. But frankly, we have not seen LSU's offense and Jaden Daniels look like that all year. So to suddenly expect that to be the norm, I think is a little bit premature. And we just talked about the Ole Miss run game. That's something that travels, and I think they're going to be able to run it. I think they're the better team overall, so I like them to go in there and get a win.
All right, boss man.
Yeah, I think this LSU team is still trying to figure it out. We're seeing it in spurts. They started passing the ball a little bit 2 weeks ago in the second half, but it was way too little, too late against Tennessee, or 2 or 3 weeks ago, whenever that was. But then last week against Florida, they really got it going, and Jaden Daniels all of a sudden looked like he was Miles Brennan out there slinging the ball around. I just don't see that continuing. I think Ole Miss is going to have a good game plan for them. I think that LSU is still really trying to find their identity. Kayshon Boutte last week was really the first week that we really saw him show up. So can LSU continue to keep that going against better and better competition against an Ole Miss defense? I don't see it happening. I think that Ole Miss will have a good game plan for them. And like Hank said, that run game travels. I think Quinshon Judkins and Zach Evans are the class of college football this year as far as a backfield duo goes. And I don't think LSU is going to be able to slow them down. Nobody's been able to slow them down yet this year. I just don't think LSU is the one to do it.
Yeah, Ole Miss LSU 2:30 Central on CBS. Tune in for that as